to see. Ryan in Michigan's here. Good afternoon, Mississippi. Hey, Beryl, how you doing? Brenda from Maryland's here as well. We've got people from all over the country. We're going to make that connection out on Facebook. We're there. Vegas is here. Nicole is representing Vegas. Plainfield, Illinois. Daryl from Fresno, California. Well, I better get started because you guys know I like to start things on time, and I want to give Jen every minute she absolutely deserves. So let's go ahead and turn the time over to Dr. Jen Myers. Jen, how you doing today?
I am fantastic, Craig. How are you?
Doing very, very well. So let's get this party started. I know people, like I said, it's been a whole week, but they're ready to jump into something fun today. I know you've got a great topic that is going to interest a lot of people today.
Yes, absolutely. And I first have to start off with the famous Craig Smith quote of the day. And that would be, "It could be worse. You could be dead." That was his quote for the day.
It's true, right? Hey, we love being above the ground. Any day you spend above the ground is better than one below as far as I'm concerned right now.
I had to share. That was too much. It was great. Made my day. So thanks for that. So hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us yet again on another science time or lunchtime science call, which I am intermittent fasting. So I actually haven't had lunch yet. So I still have a couple hours myself, which we can also talk about. Hi, Randy. Talk about a little bit too within this FTO variant and SNP is some intermittent fasting, right? I'm a huge advocate for intermittent fasting. I know there's some research out there saying women shouldn't do it, but I poo-poo on that because I've been doing that for 3 years and my hormones and everything else is just fine. So with that said, the first gene that we're going to, or actually the only gene, I think this is a pretty important variant in SNP because it does have a lot to do with one of the biggest complaints that we hear in medicine and in general, right, is weight gain. I'm gaining weight. I can't lose weight. It's not that I can't gain weight, although we hear that as well. The majority of the problem is I can't lose it. I have a really hard time. I have tried everything. Who here has heard or has said it themselves? I've done everything. I am eating the way that I'm supposed to. I'm exercising constantly. Yeah, we're human and that happens. We do have our cheat days and that's perfectly okay. But for the most part, these people are really, yes. Facebook, I'm sorry I can't see you guys, but I'll go back and look. We're having tons of patients and people come in and say, low energy and weight gain being the biggest one. So that's why I decided to kind of cover this SNP a little bit by itself, right? So the FTO SNP. And do you notice in this SNP, in the name, alpha ketoglutarate, so keto, you hear the word keto, right? So ketogenic, it kind of sounds like we should be pro-keto. And actually, I'm going to talk about that as well and how that might not be the best choice for people with this variant, especially in a homozygous or a red, having that with your wellness action plan. So FTO, believe it or not, you call it the fat gene. Yeah, fat mass and obesity gene. That's what it's called. It sounds terrible, though, when you call it the fat gene, unless you're talking about keto fat or healthy fats, right? And now fat is such a term that can be used in many different ways. We don't use that word when we're talking about somebody, of course, that's rude. But, we can use it when we're talking about healthy fats, right? So there are ways to actually, and all of our cells are covered in fat. So there's lots of ways to use that word. And I don't mean it when I say negative, or when I say it, it doesn't mean negatively. Okay, so both of yours were red. Woo, let's get into this then, Susan. So FTO is actually the very first gene that they found to be associated with human body mass. So it was kind of neat, this whole discovery of this SNP and this variant to be able to say, this may have some influence on people's weight and the ability to be able to lose weight and all the things that they're doing to where they cannot lose weight. So it was the first gene that was actually discovered in reference to human body mass. So things that it looks at is your BMI or your body mass index, your obesity risk, and also your risk for type 2 diabetes. So just because this is a fat mass and obesity SNP, it doesn't mean that there's not a type 2 diabetes component there. Another thing I kind of want to make clear is just because you have this variant, it doesn't mean you're going to be overweight or obese, right? And we'll get into that a little bit too, what that means. And I know I've talked about it in the past. It also has a lot to do with your brain kind of telling your stomach, hey, we're full, cut it off. So there's more to it than just being obese or overweight. And BMI, for instance, when I get patients in here, I don't really, I look at it, observe it, measure it. But when it comes to being a definite, oh, you know, back in the day, your BMI was over this, oh, you are obese. And that's not the case. You get people in here who are fit, who work out, who lift weights, and they're, you know, 6'2", and all of a sudden now they're obese, and that's not the case. So we take BMI very lightly, but they still do use it a lot in research. So kind of these individuals that have this FTO variant are kind of wired to eat more. And I know I've spoken about that in the past. You feel hungrier quicker. So you eat something and think, gosh, I just ate 15 minutes ago and I'm hungry again. Or the people that are in the line at the buffet and can go up several times. I am the worst person to take to a buffet because I'm going to go up one time, maybe twice, right? So it's not going to be worth my money to go to a buffet, but these are the people that actually can go there and shut it down. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that they can eat and they can continue to eat. And that part of their body, that ghrelin, that grr that says, hey, we're hungry, doesn't shut off. It keeps kind of telling the body, we're hungry, keep eating, keep eating. You will get full. It's not like you'll stuff yourself and then explode. You will get full and you will feel satisfied, but then sooner than others, you're going to be hungry again, right? So this FTO gene was actually, let's actually think about it this way. It was a survival gene, right? If we're talking about evolutionary medicine, it was a gene that adapted to survival, which is amazing to have. So there's a bonus to having this as well. It became problematic, though, kind of more so in today's world, right? Where there's this high access to energies, high energy foods, right? So foods that are constantly making us hungry, 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 hungry. So it was a good tool for us to have and variant for us to have back in evolutionary days. But now in today's world where food is so highly readily available constantly, everywhere you look, there's food. Nobody's going to starve in this country, at least. Well, every time I say something, I'm like, well, this could happen. So ignore that. But most of the time, there's so much food available to us that we can find it, we can come across it, we're not going to be hungry, right? So the World Health Organization, I want to pull some stats in here. You guys know I love the research and the statistics. I think that's important. Estimates that about 1.6 billion adults, and that's when we say adults, we usually mean age 15 and over, even though we know an adult 18, sometimes people become adults, they're like, okay. But statistically, we're that many people, 1.6 billion adults were overweight and 400 million were obese. This was back in 2005. So can you imagine how much it's raised at that point? So they actually predicted the rise to be over 3 billion at this point that are overweight and over 800 million obese adults. Like, that's insane, guys. Obesity and being overweight is a huge medical cost. And so we actually want to do our best to be able to help people. There's people who want to lose weight. Let's help them do that. So obesity is kind of like a major international public health threat, right? That's what we consider that to be. It's an economic burden. We want to be able to make it so we're not, and it's mainly about the problems that can arise from being obese, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, PCOS, all these different things that arise that are very costly and cost us and the medical system a lot of money to be able to support these people that have this weight issue, but they've tried everything and they can't lose weight and they feel stuck. So this is where we as Euphoria and we as geneticists can come in and say, guess what, guys? Now we have found something, a variant that might be a suggested help. It's not the end all, but it could help us, at least guide us in a way to be able to say, how can we help your body do what it's supposed to do biochemically better so you can burn these fats better? And we can actually accommodate these lifestyle things that we're going to talk about as well to help your body lose the weight that it should, the way that it's supposed to. We want to maintain a healthy weight level. So of course, there's all these environmental factors, right? And also things like little physical activity. I had a patient come into me yesterday and said, I'm not going to lie, I'm sedentary. I sit at work all day long at my desk. I go home, I sit at home and watch TV. I don't move. And that is a problem in this country, unfortunately, nowadays, is the lack of movement. Huge, huge, huge deal. Okay, so overeating. People think that they need to eat a lot. You don't need to eat a lot. There's actually, and that's where this gene comes in, right? That little part of my brain that says, yeah, I'm good, I can stop now. People with this variant, if this gene is turned on, they might not have that part of the brain that says, okay, guys, we're done, put the fork down. So that can be something that we can help with euphoria as well, of course, and with your nutrition, but also need to kind of train ourselves as well to say, you know what, when I get that slightly satisfied feeling, slow it down and let's watch if my body can say, okay, you're good, you're full, you don't need to eat. You don't need to eat 7 times a day. You know, most people, there are some people with higher metabolism, hypoglycemia. Sure. Oh, that was great, Craig. Thanks for, wow. Don't do that. Yeah, that's gross. Look at all that. There's bread, there's cheese. He distracts me with these pictures, but I actually love it. So it's all good. Okay, so all of these things, overeating, sedentary lifestyle has actually driven the rise in the numbers who are people who are overweight and obese, right? So genetic factors, they say it are about 40 to 90% of the population variation and their BMI. 40 to 90% does have a genetic influence, but there are other influences as well, like lifestyle, the things I just talked about, overeating and lack of exercise and physical activity. So it's kind of hope that if we say, okay, let's identify these genetic factors and these underlying predispositions for obesity, that, and hopefully we can help contribute to the decrease in weight, the decrease in numbers and statistics when it comes to obesity, and also understand the biology of this energy balance and food and biochemistry and how our body works, so that we can look at these pathways and say, how are we going to therapeutically intervene? And that's what we get to do with Euphoria, which is way cool with this FTO variant. So a quick little recent study that I have found, people with the FTO variant are actually more likely to prefer those high-fat foods, right? And they also typically consume more calories, which I did say, at a meal, and feel less satisfied. So think about that. So high-fat foods, and that just doesn't mean all your healthy fats. That just means the fried foods and the foods that maybe aren't so good for us, saturated in these omega-6 fatty acids, which we know are very detrimental to our health. But that's what they like. They like those rich foods. They crave more of it, and they typically eat more calories in one sitting as well. So that's why intermittent fasting is such a great idea for these kind of people, right? So they actually did an experiment where they hooked these, and I think I talked about this before, but I love this. They hooked these people up to a brain scan and showed them various images of foods. So when they showed these fatty foods, French fries, and things like that, people with this FTO risk variant actually had more activity in certain parts of their brain. So it actually suggested that they were more drawn to these types of food than somebody without this risk variant. So we have seen in research and in clinical data that this is an issue. Of course, you're more drawn to, man, I could really go for some French fries right about now. You'll never hear that out of my mouth. And if you do, make sure I'm okay, something's wrong. But anyway, so 2007, we found this single nucleotide, of course, within the fat mass and obesity, the FTO SNP came about, or was kind of discovered, I guess, officially in 2007. And of course, like I said, became the first one to be noted in human body mass index. So it's been just that recent, guys. Genetics is new and innovating, and we're constantly discovering new things, which is really great to hear. So about 37%, so there's 2 risk variants that we look at here, right? And I know Craig has brought them both up for me. So we have the 980 that ends in that, and we also have the other version, which is the 609, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So about 37% of the population have the risk variant for the 980, the one that was up. And about 34% of the population have the FTO of the 609, the one that is up currently. So that's a pretty significant amount. Yes, it's under 50%, but I see it quite often even in practice. So what does this mean, right? So take a step back, think about it. Losing weight is a huge and real challenge for millions and millions of people. I hear it every single day. And it just, I just want to help people, of course, and oh, just take phentermine, these doctors say, or do you just need to exercise more, or just eat less calories and HCG and all these diets, and this is going to help. None of these things are sustainable. We're not getting to the root cause, and that's what we get to do by looking at some of these genetic variants and also taking lifestyle into consideration. We need to get to the root cause of why these people are having issues with being able to lose weight. So keeping the weight off, as we know, is also extremely hard, right? I lost the weight. Now, how am I going to sustain this and actually keep this weight off? So that can be hard to do for people. So studies are actually showing now the most common reasons for people to regain weight after they've lost some is because now, here we go. They busted their butts. They got out there. They worked out. They did really well on their lifestyle and nutrition. They've been being very proactive. They get to that weight and they're like, sweet, I found my sweet spot. I'm good. Now I can start dabbling into this. I can decrease, my physical activity time. I need a vacation, time for more leisure time, right? Decrease their dietary restraints. And I don't like the word restraint, so let me rephrase that. Decrease that healthy lifestyle of nutrition that they've started to implement in their daily life. We don't like the word restriction or restraint. Nobody feels good when you tell them you have to restrain them or you have to restrict them on something, right? We want to talk about things that we can do. So they also start reducing the amount of self-weighing. And I don't necessarily think that getting on the scale, although I'm guilty of it, I do it every day, getting on the scale constantly is a good thing. It does mess with our minds, but it is good to know the baseline and check it every once in a while. We are going to fluctuate, especially us women, with water weight and other things. So we are going to fluctuate a little bit, but we want to avoid those big fluctuations either way because both up or down could be bad. We want to sustain it. So when people say, I want to lose 50 pounds in 1 month, that is not sustainable, right? So we want to do it in a low and slow way so we can keep it off. So that way we can sustain it and maintain that healthy weight that is whatever is good for us. I think numbers are irrelevant here with that scale. I really do. I feel like it's what we feel good in our clothing and how we feel good as human beings is what's most important. So, gosh, it's already 12:17. You gotta be kidding me. All right, let's keep going. Other things that happen where people regain weight is increase in percentage of now they start taking in more fat. So they're eating more fats, more chocolate cakes, more French fries. I can splurge now. This is awesome, right? Menopausal women, that's a totally different topic. Hormones do play a role in that, Susan, but this SNP and this variant also plays a huge role in it as well. Menopausal women is different. We have to look at hormones and such. I'm sorry, guys, I diverse, but that will come up again. So we'll talk about that. Also kind of getting to the point where you have those decreased ability to be able to control our impulses, right? So we get this impulsive risk, feeling of just, you know what, I have had a rough week. I deserve this carrot cake. Yes, I love carrot cake. I deserve this carrot cake, right? So I'm going to start having it. And then the next day I deserve it again. And then the next day I deserve some pasta. And then we just kind of get off of that. We jump the tracks, right? And we're just kind of like falling down this downward rabbit hole spiral of just eating like crap again. And that becomes a problem. So you have to sustain it. We have to find something that is sustainable for you and will work for you. Okay, so that it makes sense, right? We want to make sure we have something that we can do, it works with our lifestyle and stuff that we like to eat, not just say, you need to go home and eat bananas all day, every day. And you go, but I don't like bananas. Well, tough, go home and eat bananas. You're not going to do it. So we need to make sure that it's sustainable for everybody. Also need to make sure that if you are less active, you are a little bit more cautious about what you're eating and the calories that you're taking in, okay? So some people have to not be very active because of pain or restrictions that they have because of their health, right? Or because, that they do work inside all day long. I always tell people, set your clock if you can, or your timer for an hour, get up and move. I don't care what you do. I used to do wall squats, get a yoga bouncy ball, get the standing desks or the bicycle desk, but move, get that blood flow going. That's a good thing. We need to move. We also need to kind of make sure that we are not just, we're allowed to splurge, right? We're human. So please do splurge, please do enjoy it, but physical activity, yes, that's a good one. We also want to talk more and more about physical activity because I've heard many patients come in and say, my doctor said if I just exercise more, I'll lose the weight and I'll be fine. Well, no, yeah, that's part of the equation, but it's like this much part of the equation, right? So we want to make sure that we can exercise in a very healthy way. In moderation, weight training. I think women in general, of course, men, lift some weights to your comfort, of course, as well. Don't overdo it. Lift some weights and do some high intensity interval training, and that will also help as well with kind of just keeping this genetic variant at bay. So I digress. Sorry, guys. Some of the things that we want to make sure, of course, is some of these male carriers, right? So the men that have this variant that showed more vigorous activity, right? They seem to do pretty good, actually. So food constraint or food restriction, oh gosh, I hate that word. I just said it again. Making sure we're not eating too much in time frames and such. I'm sorry, so my office manager just walked in and she just completely distracted me. Making sure that we eat the right foods in the right amount and we're exercising in the right amount as well. And we've talked about this a million times. Moderation, guys, 30 minutes a day, sometimes more. I work out for an hour and that's fine too, but I don't need to be there 7 days a week. That's not possible to do for everybody, and it's not healthy because your body doesn't recover. So some of the things that we want to do in order to maintain a healthy body composition and also help with this is eat more. So I pulled this thing up and I'm reading it now and I don't like what it says. So I'm going to create my own. You ready for this? So some of the things we need to do: intermittent fasting. Has anybody ever heard of, tried intermittent fasting? Some people, it's maybe not for everybody, but it is good for a large part of the population. Most people do very well on it. It's just the mental part we have to get through. So I always tell people and patients, start low and slow, right? So 12 hours a day, give yourself a eating window, right? You want to make sure that you can eat 12 hours per day. Mine is down to 6. I'm down to a 6-hour eating window. Is that all the time? No. If I want to splurge, do I? Absolutely. But giving yourself, starting out with a 12-hour window per day. So say that you wake up at 6 a.m. and you eat breakfast at 7, you're done eating dinner by 7 o'clock. That's not late, guys. That's not bad. It's easy to do a 12-hour and it allows your body to rest, digest, and get into kind of a fat burning mode, like we say with ketosis, because people with this variant are not going to do so well on a ketogenic diet, especially when you're a homozygous or your variant is red. Not going to do so well with high fats. You're not going to be able to break them down very easily. So I always suggest if you're homozygous or red within the FTO variant, try to steer away from a full ketosis diet, maybe going more paleo. If somebody here is vegan or vegetarian, that's fine. It's not my favorite lifestyle, but I understand. If you have a yellow or a green or heterozygous or wild type within this variant, you can add a little bit more fats and digest and use them better than you can if you had a red in this. So everybody wants to get so concerned about this, that the keto is the rage, and it is a very healthy thing, but it's not eating 200 grams of fat per day. That's really tough to do. But intermittent fasting is a wonderful way to actually calorie restrict without saying you're calorie restricting, right? So you're eating, not spreading it out as far. So intermittent fasting, great way to do it. Exercise, of course, another great way to implement being able to help control this variant. I'm just realizing what time I have. Of course, sleep's really important, right? If we don't get enough sleep, we're not gonna feel so well. We're not gonna do so well. We're not gonna recover. Our bodies don't feel good. Our brains don't feel good. Our mood, we're cranky or irritable, we're hangry at that point, and we just kind of don't care as much. So adequate sleep, that differs for everybody. Of course, 7 to 8 hours is what's recommended. Some people do great off 5 to 6. That's me. Other people need 8 to 9, and that's okay. So getting quality sleep is what matters. Water, drinking enough H2O, right? Half of your weight in ounces. That sounds impossible. Constantly carry something with you. Please don't drink out of plastic, guys. We talked about this in detoxification. Drink out of stainless steel or glass if possible. Half of your weight in ounces of water every single day. If you need to squirt a lemon or lime in there or something to give it, or cucumbers, put cucumbers in there to give it some flavor for less boredom, go right ahead, whatever it takes, half your weight in ounces. So another thing I kind of want to get into, since I have a little bit of time and not much, is oils. This is a huge thing. Omega-6 fatty acids are one of the biggest cause of disease in our country, unfortunately, and do not help this variant. So all these saturated, polysaturated, these PUFAs and all these unhealthy oils that they're using in fast foods and restaurants to try to, they need cheap oil to be able to maintain and feed all of us, right? Don't go to fast food. That's how I look at it. But if you have to, make healthier choices. So some of the oils that I always recommend to patients, because I think this is a big deal, making sure we're getting away from these these vegetable oils and canola oils and grapeseed oils and palm oils and soybean oils and corn oil and peanut oil, safflower oil, cottonseed oil. Those are all bad. They increase our omega-6. The omega-6 to omega-3 conversion is about 1%, so it's very low. Sesame oil, Darcy, is considered to be good. There are a lot of sesame allergies and intolerances, so I always tell people just to make sure you can tolerate it. But I do see sesame very high up on food allergies and intolerances. So coconut oil, that's right. So we're about ready to talk about that. So here's some of the healthiest fats and oils, right? Obviously, they have to go through some intense processing before they even make it to your kitchen. So we want to make sure that we understand what the smoke points are. And that means how much heat they can actually take before they start to change their composition. And then they they become either toxic or they're ineffective at that point. So oils that are best, especially for cooking, one of my favorites, MCT oil. MCT comes from coconut. It's more highly concentrated. MCT oil happens to be one of the very best for cooking. Its smoke point is 320 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything I'm talking about is in Fahrenheit. So 320 degrees. So you can heat it up pretty warm, but not too hot, of course. Coconut oil, of course, being another one. Lemon, okay, in your water, absolutely. Coconut oil is great. It does have a very low smoke point kind of as well. MCT oil is 320. Coconut oil is actually 350 degrees. Okay, so, but it does make it better for kind of those lower heating. Coconut oil pairs really great with things like seafood and is also used in a lot of those Southeast Asian recipes and such as well. We can use it with baking. We can take out all those canola oils and substitute with coconut oil, of course. So you can still have a healthy treat just to use different and better oils in this. Olive oil, right? I love nothing more than a good tasting fresh olive oil. It's one of my favorite things. I'll put it on everything. I don't care. So it's packed, of course, with antioxidants, has a robust flavor. I love extra virgin olive oil. You want one that's unrefined and minimally processed, of course. It does have a low smoke point. So you kind of want to use it as a garnish or even as a dressing. It pairs really well with meats, vegetables, and even eggs. Put it on eggs. I put it on just about everything. I love olive oil. Another one that actually has a higher smoke point is actually avocado oil. So we can use that without kind of getting rid of its nutritional integrity. It doesn't degrade over high heat, like even in a pan when you're cooking it. So avocado oil is another healthy choice. It's also loaded with omega-9s, which are great for us also, and vitamin E. So you can use it with a very subtle nutty flavor that it tends to have also. Butter, grass-fed butter. I have 1 minute left, Craig. I'm going to try my best, but I got to get this out. I love grass-fed butter, Kerrygold, anything like that. Butter we can use as an oil. A little bit goes a long way. It's a great source of vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, CLA, which is really good for CLA we use for belly fat, right? So conjugated linoleic acid is what that means. It has a great anti-cancer effect and properties as well. It's preferred a lot with a lot of people. Who doesn't love butter? Also, there it is. That's my favorite. Except for the unsalted one. That one's salted. So the silver one. Butter does have a low smoke point though, so 302 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe. So it's best for kind of that low heat cooking, or just put it in your coffee, right? Put it in your coffee, put it in your whatever, just put it in there. That's my noise I make when I do it. Another one, my last one is ghee. right? So ghee is actually clarified butter. It does have a high smoke point as well, so you can use ghee when it comes to cooking on the stove top is what that means. Try using, of course, organic, grass-fed ghee, and you can put it with all your high cooking needs, and it actually has a great taste to it as well. So my two favorites on that are three, actually: coconut oil. I also love butter. I love butter. And I actually really like MCT oil. Just be really cautious not to use too much. Guys, I know that my time is up, and I'm so sorry. I have so much I want to talk about with this, but oils are a big component when it comes to this variant and this SNP. So try using more healthy oils. Takeaway would be, if you do have the red in this gene, try staying away from ketogenic diet. If you are yellow or green, you can incorporate some more fats. If you are red, it doesn't mean you can't use oils, and these oils that I spoke about specifically, absolutely use those. Increase your exercise, but in moderation, lots of water, appropriate sleep. And there are other components: lifestyle, stress, hormones, other things that are absolutely involved in this. But taking your euphoria and understanding where your nutritional pathways are, especially within this variant, will help and guide us a lot with knowing and understanding how you need to lose weight and what we can recommend for you. I'm so sorry I went over. Next week, I get to talk about my favorite topic. There's 2 SNPs left, and guess what they're about? Mitochondria. So we're going to talk about how to kick more ass with better mitochondria. So thank you. I'm sorry I went over. Craig, I'm going to let you take over from here. Again, remember, guys, genetics is not doom and gloom. It's understanding and it's power.
Jen, thank you so much. Everybody loves it. They're more and more and more chanting. Appreciate our Facebook friends, our Zoom friends and chats. Thank you, everybody. And we will be back next week. Get ready. Everybody dance now. We're talking mitochondria, right? It doesn't get cooler than that. See you next Wednesday. Mitochondria, Lunchtime Science with Dr. Jen. Thanks, everyone. Remember, welcome to Euphoria, where being you never felt better. Have a great day.